Alright, this is another example just like the example we did in the previous video. This is just like example 3. So again, we're going to start off by, when we add and subtract, by factoring anything that can be factored on the bottom. So the first fraction, there's nothing you can do. That just drops down. But the right-hand side, we do have a common factor on the denominator. Between 5 and 10, you can take a 5 out. Between x squared and x, you can take an x out. What's left over when you do that, if you take a 5x away from 5x squared, you're left with an x. Take away a 5x away from 10x, you're left with a 2. So from here, we're now looking to see what can we do to make these the same. So look at 10 and 5 first. Between 10 and 5, a common multiple is 10. That's already a 10, so we don't need to change it. This number 5, though, if we multiply by 2, it will get us a 10. So this side has a 10, now this side has a 10. Same thing with the x squared and the x. I can multiply this x here by another x, and you will now have an x squared on this side, and then an x times x is also an x squared on the right-hand side. So now this side, the right-hand side, has everything the left-hand side has. So I can close these parentheses. Now, the right-hand side has an x minus 2 that the left-hand side does not have. So I'm going to multiply the left fraction by what's missing, which is that x minus 2. And you do to the top and the bottom, that way you're multiplying by just a 1. Okay, so now that you do that, you're going to simplify the numerators. Always simplify this, so distribute the 3 to the x. Distribute the 3 to the negative 2 to get negative 6. Now on the bottom, you don't want to do any simplifying at all. You want to leave them in factored form. So the 10x squared drops. X minus 2 drops as well. Leave that as it is. On the right-hand side, do the same thing. Not as much to do here. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. On the bottom, the only thing you're going to simplify is you are going to multiply the two single terms together. 2x times 5x is 10x squared. The x minus 2 drops. And this is just a good way to check as well to make sure you do have common denominators, which we do. So our final answer is going to be over that common denominator. Just rewriting it. And then you just add the top. Sometimes there are things to combine. In this case, there aren't. So again, I'm going to put the 4x squared first. Then the positive 3x. And then the minus 6. And just like before, you want to check to see, can I factor this? In this case, we might be able to, actually. 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. Are there any factors of negative 24 that will get me a 3? Actually, in this case, I don't think that there are. So since this is not factorable, that will be my final answer. So those are a little bit tougher than what we started off with, but they're still not, unfortunately, the toughest ones that we'll see. So we're going to jump and do example 4. We're going to do a couple like example 4 because it is the toughest, and spend some time on it. Okay. So the first one, example 4. Actually, let's do this example 4 first. It's a little bit easier. All right, this is one I don't think that we did in class, but we'll go ahead and look at it. So this one, we have some factoring to do. Remember, that's always your first step. I can factor the bottom left, so I'm going to bring down the x. Factors of positive 3 that get me negative 4 are negative 3 and negative 1. Again, that's something you should be able to do from previous chapters. Plus, this side, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to factor. So x minus 3 is it. Now, I actually find this problem to be a little bit easier than the ones we just did because there's no single terms off to the side. It's just binomials. So if you notice, both of these fractions have x minus 3's. Okay. This side, though, has an x minus 1 that the right-hand side does not have. So I don't have to multiply the left fraction by anything. All I have to do is multiply the right fraction by the missing binomial, which is x minus 1. So now if you notice, they both have x minus 3's. They both have x minus 1s. That's all I have to do. So the left fraction, I'm just going to rewrite. Nothing to change since I didn't multiply anything. The right fraction, I'm going to distribute the top. So 5 times x gets you 5x. 5 times the negative 1 gets you negative 5. On the bottom, remember, you never want to simplify the denominator. Leave the denominator always in the factored form. Never multiply those out, ever. Now, if you notice, we do have common denominators. So we can now put our answer over that common denominator. Just rewriting it. And I'm going to combine whatever like terms I have. And this time I do have some. I've got an x plus 5x, which is now 6x. And then this negative 5, it's really 0 plus negative 5, which is a negative 5. And since that cannot be factored, that will be my final answer. Okay, and I think we'll do some a little bit tougher in the next video that will be more simplifiable, I guess, because these have all been able to stop at this step. There are cases where you will take this step even further and factor and cancel like we did in the previous section. So hopefully those will work out that way so you can see some of those done. Okay, so the next video will have 2 examples very similar to this one.